For most Americans, retirement is supposed to be the reward for a lifetime of hard work. It's the season of life you've spent decades preparing for. The season you've imagined during long workdays. The season you've planned for while contributing to your 401k, funding an IRA, and setting money aside year after year. For decades, you've been told the same thing. Save more. Spend less. Think long term. Prepare for retirement. And for many Americans, that advice works. They save diligently. They invest consistently. They avoid unnecessary debt. They make sacrifices. Over time, they build a retirement nest egg they can be proud of. Then retirement finally arrives. And something unexpected happens. Many retirees discover that spending money is much harder than saving it. At first, that sounds strange. After all, retirement savings were created for retirement. The entire purpose of those accounts was to provide income later in life. So why would spending that money feel difficult? The answer has very little to do with mathematics. And almost everything to do with psychology. Because retirement is not just a financial transition. It's a mental transition. For 40 years or more, your financial life follows a familiar pattern. You earn money. You save some of it. You watch your retirement accounts grow. Year after year, that growth becomes reassuring. A larger account balance feels like progress. It feels like security. It feels like proof that you're doing the right thing. Over time, the habit becomes deeply ingrained. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who spends money. You begin thinking of yourself as someone who saves money. Someone who prepares. Someone who plans ahead. Someone who protects their future. Then retirement arrives. And suddenly, the rules change. For the first time in decades, you're expected to stop building the nest egg and start using it. The account that spent 40 years growing is now expected to do something different. It's expected to support your life. And for many retirees, that feels surprisingly uncomfortable. Every withdrawal feels different than a paycheck. Every withdrawal feels different than a purchase made during working years. Even when retirees can comfortably afford it, spending often creates anxiety. Because spending causes the account balance to move in the wrong direction. For decades, a growing balance represented success. Now the balance is gradually declining. Even though that's exactly what retirement savings were designed to do. Imagine spending 40 years climbing a mountain. Every year, you move a little higher. Every year, you make progress. Then one day, you reach the top. The journey changes. The objective changes. But emotionally, you're still attached to the climb. That's how many retirees feel about their savings. They spent decades accumulating wealth. Very few spent time learning how to transition into spending it. This creates what many financial professionals call the saver mindset. The saver mindset is incredibly valuable during working years. It's what helps people resist unnecessary spending. It's what helps people stay disciplined. It's what helps people build financial security. The problem is that the same mindset can become difficult to leave behind. A retiree may have a paid-off home, reliable Social Security income, healthy retirement accounts, emergency savings, and yet still hesitate before spending money. Not because they can't afford to spend. Because spending feels wrong. Because spending feels risky. Because spending feels permanent. For many retirees, the retirement account becomes more than money. It becomes a symbol. A symbol of decades of work. Decades of discipline. Decades of sacrifice. Every contribution tells a story. The years spent working overtime. The years spent raising children while still saving. The years spent saying no to purchases so future goals could be achieved. As a result, the account balance becomes emotionally significant. And once emotions become involved, financial decisions become more complicated. A retiree may understand logically that retirement savings exist to support retirement. But emotionally, every withdrawal can still feel like a loss. This reaction is completely natural. Human beings are generally much more sensitive to losses than gains. Most people feel the pain of losing money more intensely than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. That tendency doesn't disappear in retirement. In fact, it often becomes stronger. A retiree might spend $5,000 on a memorable family vacation. The vacation creates joy, memories, experiences, time with children and grandchildren. Yet afterward, the account balance is lower. And the lower balance is often easier to see than the value of the experience itself. Over time, this creates a powerful psychological conflict. Retirees want to enjoy retirement. But they also want to preserve their savings. They want freedom. But they also want security. And sometimes those goals appear to compete with each other. This becomes even more noticeable during periods of economic uncertainty. Retirees have lived through recessions, market declines, inflation, financial crises. Many remember periods when the future felt uncertain. Those memories don't disappear after retirement. If anything, they become more influential. Every market downturn reinforces caution. Every negative headline creates concern. Every discussion about inflation or healthcare costs raises new questions. Will my money last? What if healthcare becomes more expensive? What if inflation remains high? What if I need long-term care? What if I live longer than expected? These are reasonable concerns. Responsible concerns. But over time, they can create an unintended consequence. Retirees become so focused on protecting their future that they forget to enjoy their present. The retirement account becomes something to preserve rather than something to use. The balance becomes the goal. The number becomes the source of comfort. And before long, retirement savings begin serving a different purpose than originally intended. Instead of supporting life, they become something to protect. If retirees spend decades preparing for retirement, why do so many struggle to enjoy the money once retirement actually begins? Why do so many financially secure retirees continue behaving as though they're still preparing for the future? The answer often comes down to one powerful force: uncertainty. Because retirement asks people to solve a problem that has no perfect answer. Nobody knows exactly how long retirement will last. Nobody knows exactly what healthcare will cost 20 years from now. Nobody knows what inflation will look like a decade from today. And nobody knows how much money will ultimately be enough. That uncertainty shapes nearly every financial decision retirees make. The fear of an unknown future is one of the most powerful forces in retirement. And unlike many financial challenges, it never completely disappears. During your working years, most financial decisions have a relatively short timeline. You know when the next paycheck is coming. You know roughly how much you'll earn next year. You know that if an unexpected expense appears, you can often work a little longer, earn additional income, or adjust your plans. Retirement is different. For many Americans, retirement is the first stage of life where the timeline becomes unclear. You may be retired for 10 years. You may be retired for 30 years. Nobody knows. And that uncertainty changes the way people think about money. Imagine two retirees. Both have exactly the same retirement savings. Both have similar monthly expenses. Both receive Social Security. On paper, their financial situations are almost identical. Yet one feels comfortable spending money. The other feels anxious every time they make a withdrawal. The difference isn't math. The difference is uncertainty. Because retirement isn't just about what your savings look like today. It's about what they might need to support 20 years from now. That creates a natural tendency toward caution. And caution, while valuable, can sometimes become excessive. Many retirees begin planning their lives around possibilities rather than probabilities. They imagine the most expensive healthcare scenario, the highest inflation scenario, the longest possible lifespan, the worst possible market environment. Nobody wants to become financially vulnerable later in life. But constantly preparing for worst-case scenarios can prevent people from enjoying the retirement they've already earned. The problem occurs when the pursuit of security becomes endless. Because complete certainty is impossible. There is always another risk. Another possibility. Another future scenario to prepare for. If someone waits until every uncertainty disappears before enjoying retirement savings, that moment may never arrive. Many retirees find themselves financially secure, yet emotionally unable to enjoy the security they've created. The money was accumulated to reduce stress. Yet the money itself becomes the source of stress. The account balance becomes something that must constantly be protected. Constantly monitored. Constantly preserved. The irony is that many retirees ultimately leave behind more money than they ever expected. For years they worried about spending too much. For years they worried about running out. For years they delayed purchases and experiences. Then later in life they discover they could have comfortably spent far more than they actually did. This isn't because they made poor financial decisions. Many were extraordinarily disciplined. Their caution helped create their financial success. But the skills that build wealth are not always the same skills required to enjoy retirement. Accumulation and retirement are different phases of life. During accumulation, success often means saving more. During retirement, success often means using resources wisely. Money is not the destination. Money is the tool. The destination is the life that money helps create. Time with grandchildren. Family gatherings. Travel experiences. Personal freedom. Peace of mind. The ability to say yes when opportunities appear. These are the things retirement savings were designed to support. The goal is not to spend everything. The goal is not to leave nothing behind. The goal is balance. Think about how often retirees say, "I'll wait another year. Maybe later. Let's hold off for now. We should be careful." When repeated year after year, those statements become habits. A vacation gets postponed. Then another. Then another. A visit with family gets delayed. A dream experience gets pushed into the future. One of the most surprising realities of retirement is that time often becomes more valuable than money. When people are younger, money feels scarce and time feels abundant. Retirement gradually reverses that equation. Many retirees eventually discover that their greatest asset is no longer their portfolio. It's their remaining healthy years. And unlike money, those years cannot be replenished. Once they're gone, they're gone. The trip you've always wanted to take may become more difficult at 85 than it is at 65. Energy changes. Health changes. Circumstances change. Waiting forever carries risks of its own. Many financial discussions focus on the risk of spending too much. Far fewer discuss the risk of spending too little. Yet both risks exist. One can damage financial security. The other can reduce quality of life. The ideal retirement lies somewhere in the middle. There is one final reason many retirees never spend their retirement savings. For many Americans, retirement savings gradually stop representing money. Instead, they begin representing security. The account balance becomes a source of comfort. A large balance creates a sense of control. A sense of stability. A sense of protection against financial security matters. But so does quality of life. Protecting the future matters. But so does enjoying the present. You can be responsible and still enjoy your money. You can be cautious and still take the trip you've always wanted to take. You can protect your future and still improve your present. Perhaps the most important question retirees can ask themselves is this. What was the purpose of saving all this money? Was it simply to create the largest possible account balance? Or was it to create freedom? For most people, the answer is obvious. They saved because they wanted choices. They saved because they wanted security. They saved because they wanted to enjoy retirement without constantly worrying about money. If that's true, then retirement savings should ultimately support those goals, not prevent them. One day, every retiree realizes something important. Time is becoming more valuable than money. Money can be saved. Money can be invested. Money can be earned. Time cannot. Every year becomes more precious. Every healthy year becomes more meaningful. Every opportunity becomes more valuable. The real challenge is finding the confidence to trust the plan you've spent decades building. To trust the savings you've accumulated. To trust the discipline that got you here. Because the goal of retirement was never to become the richest person in the cemetery. The goal was to build a life that feels secure, meaningful, and fulfilling. And for many retirees, that means learning one final lesson. Not how to save. Not how to invest. Not how to accumulate. But how to use the resources they've spent a lifetime creating. Because the greatest retirement mistake isn't always spending too much. Sometimes it's spending too little. Sometimes it's allowing fear to become stronger than freedom. And sometimes it's reaching the end of life with the realization that the money was always there. But the confidence to enjoy it never was. Retirement savings are not simply numbers on a statement. They are the result of decades of hard work, discipline, and sacrifice. Their purpose is not merely to exist. Their purpose is to help you live. The goal was never to spend recklessly. And it was never to leave behind the largest possible number. The goal was to create freedom. Freedom to enjoy time with family. Freedom to make memories. Freedom to say yes to opportunities. Freedom to experience the life you spent decades preparing for. Because money is only valuable when it serves a purpose. And retirement was never meant to be a permanent state of waiting. It was meant to be a season of living. A season of experiences. A season of gratitude. A season of enjoying the rewards of a lifetime of work. No one can predict the future with perfect certainty. No one knows exactly how long retirement will last. And no one knows what challenges may come. But endless caution has a cost of its own. Because while money can be preserved, time cannot. And eventually, every retiree faces the same truth. The balance in the account was never the destination. Life was. The memories. The relationships. The experiences. The freedom. Those are the things that matter most. Because the greatest success in retirement isn't dying with the most money. It's living with the most meaning. And perhaps the final lesson retirement teaches us is this. After spending a lifetime learning how to earn, how to save, and how to invest, we must also learn how to enjoy. Because in the end, the purpose of money is not simply to exist. Its purpose is to help you live.